Today we'll be installing Sungrow automatic roof vent on the Sungrow Urban Greenhouse. So Sungrow Urban Greenhouse has 4 sections, and recommended amount of the roof vents will be 2 to cover 2 middle sections of the greenhouse. We already have one automatic roof vent installed on the second section on the left. The roof vents are installed on the ridge panels and the ridge sections of the greenhouse, closer to the top. So the most efficient way, the second roof vent ideally would be installed on the third section on the right. Step 1, we will be cutting out the polycarbonate panel from the greenhouse. So we'll be following the contour of the metal frame connections of the pieces number 2 at the top and bottom, and 4B on the sides. No measurement needs to be taken. All you need is a sharp utility knife. Once the window is cut, you can take it out and make sure to grab a Sharpie and mark the UV protected side of the polycarbonate panel. Next, we'll need to loosen up the metal strapping that hold the polycarbonate panel on the section where the window is to be installed. If necessary, repeat on the other side. Now we'll need to remove 4 screws and 4 corners of the cutout that are connecting the pieces number 2 and 4B. Step 2, now we're installing the top hinge on the piece number 2 on the upper side of the window opening. Step 2.2, we'll be attaching chain on the bottom purlin number 2. You put the M5x14 screw. And then you preset the chain with another M5 nut. Step 3. Assemble the window frame from the parts number 1, number 2, 3, and 4. So when connecting the pieces number 1, 2, and 3, we will be using the flathead screws M5 by 12 and connecting them with the M5 nuts. When connecting the piece number 4, we'll be using regular M5 by 10 screws and same M5 nuts. Another tip, when to use the flathead M5 by 12 screws, is where we have the connection with the metal framing that are cut out a bit deeper. That's where we'll be using the flathead M5 by 12 screws for these hole connections between pieces 1, 2, and 3. When connecting pieces number 1 and 2, make sure that the arrows are pointing to the right direction. On the bottom, it should point to the right. On the top, it should point to the left. On the left-hand side, piece number 2 points upwards, and on the right-hand side, points downwards. Now we'll need to install the bottom hinge, 2 pieces at the top, using the regular M5 by 10 screws and M5 nuts. And we would also install one M5 by 14 screw that will be later on used for the chain. Step 4, we'll put the polycarbonate panel that we cut out from the greenhouse on top of the window. We have to make sure that the UV protected side will be on the outside. So now what we'll need to do is to tape one side with the polycarbonate channels. We'll tape the top side and then tape it to the frame on one side only. Now line up the polycarbonate panel on two sides of the window frame. And tape it to the window frame on that side. Now we'll need to cut the polycarbonate panel to make it precise to the roof vent frame with no allowances. So as we have already attached one side polycarbonate panel with the tape, the other side is loose and it's not attached, so it will be easier to cut it if you just simply flip the roof vent. Now we apply one layer of the clear tape on the polycarbonate channel on the bottom, and then we apply the second layer where we will attach the polycarbonate panel to the frame of the window. Now we'll need to center the monolite polycarbonate panel on top of our roof vent. So you have to make sure that the UV protected side, which is marked in this case on the bottom left corner, is facing towards the sun. There is a film on both sides of the polycarbonate panel that needs to be removed prior to installation. Once the polycarbonate panel is centered on the window frame and secured with two screws on the sides, we can go ahead and pre-drill all the holes and secure the rest of the M5x14 screws with the rubber washers. If you are installing the manual roof vent, you would need to use the special designed angle and attach it before you put the nut on the middle bottom hole of the roof vent. If you are installing the automatic roof vent, you just run the screw with the washer without the angle piece. In this sample, we'll show you both options. We'll first install the manual window and then show you how to put the automatic one. Next, we'll be installing the locking tube with the M555 screw, 3 M5 nuts, locking tube itself, and the M5x32 washer. The locking tube will be installed on the left-hand side of the window. It will be on the right side if you look at it from the inside. In general, it doesn't matter which side it goes as soon as it's in the opposite side from the screw where we will be connecting the chain. Step 5. Now we'll be installing the opening seal, rubber opening seal. Long pieces will go on the bottom and the shorter pieces will go on the side. The bottom piece that will go first, there is no allowance. We need to cut it to the pre-size of the polycarbonate panel opening. The rubber seal is resting on the polycarbonate panel and not on the metal. When installing the rubber gasket on the side, you need to leave an allowance and cut the bottom portion of the opening seal from 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch, or 5 to 8 millimeters. And this is how you do it. And at the top, you cut it precisely by where the polycarbonate panel ends. You have to repeat the same process on the opposite side, leaving the allowance going towards the bottom to let the water drain properly. At the upper seal, there's an allowance on both sides. This is how the opening seal should look when installed on 4 corners. Before installing the fixing strips on all 4 sides, we'll need to pre-drill 4 holes on the purlin. So these would be the single holes on the bottom and 2 single holes at the top. We would also need to pre-drill 4 holes at the very corners where we previously removed the M5x10 screw on all 4 corners. Be careful when pre-drilling the holes and shift the weather opening seal, and only then proceed with drilling the holes. Next, we'll be installing the fixing strips on the horizontal bars purlins number 2. This is the way the fixing strip should be positioned. With the straight corner, 90-degree angle, it will be butted against the polycarbonate panel and the opening seal, and the curved side would go along with the frame of the greenhouse. Once we've put the fixing strip on the bottom purlin, we'll use M535 screw with a washer. Put it from the outside through the pre-drilled holes that we made, and secure it with the M5 nut. There are 2 shorter curved side pieces that would go exactly the same way, where the straight angle would go against the polycarbonate panel and the curved side would go along with the frame, the piece number 4B. Repeat on the top and the other side. Put 4 M510 screws back in 4 corners where we have previously removed them from, crushing through the polycarbonate panel. Repeat on all 4 corners. Step 7. Installing the rubber strip. So as we have previously loosened the metal straps on both sides of the cutout, we'll need to position the rubber strip so it overlaps the straps on both sides. We have to put it under the straps and under the ridge cap at the same time, slightly pushing it in about like 1 inch until it reaches the ridge of the polycarbonate panel connection. Once the rubber strip is positioned, we'll have to make sure that the straps are back at their position, right in the middle of the arch. When looking at the strap from this angle, you should be able to see the screw heads on both sides, all along the bottom side. Once we've done this, we'll need to make a cut alongside with the strapping on both sides. Repeat on the other side. Now we have to tighten the straps back on. Just make sure that they are perfectly centered. You should be able to see the screw heads of the connection of the metal pieces on both sides of the strap. Once aligned, we'll be using the M545 screw with the one-way lock nut to secure two hinges together. Now attach chain using the M5 nut to the very last link. In order to preset the angle for the manual opening, I'm going to position it this way and use a self-tapping screw. It goes on the purlin number 2 on the bottom. Now we'll connect the two pieces of the manual opening together with the rod stoppers. So the piece that has curved edge will be the upper side of the opening mechanism, and the straight part will be the bottom handle. And we'll connect them together and we'll be able to adjust the length of the arm as well. So you're using special design ties to connect them together. First, you'll need to loosen up the clamps. Put it on the upper section of the rod, both of them at the same time. Now connect the bottom part of it. Now we can spread them evenly and tighten the screws. Now we'll install the preset rod on the window frame through this part, and we'll fix it to the angle. This is how it looks in the open position. In order to open or close the vent, you just simply push it upwards, move it to the side, and let the window close. If you want to lock it, you'll need to use the locking tube that is preset on the side. Step 10. Now we'll be installing automatic opener on the Sungrow roof vent. If you had the manual window preset, you would need to remove two angles, one from the greenhouse frame and also one from the window frame. The next step will be loosening up 2 screws that hold the polycarbonate panel on the bottom in order to preset the automatic roof opening arm. Now we'll need to preset the spacer with the arm for the automatic opener using the second bottom holes or the very bottom ones. We'll need also M4 35 screws with 2 M4 nuts. Now we need to tighten back 2 M5 35 screws and put the nuts back in. Now we'll need to use the Phillips head self-tapping screws to secure the upper portion of the arm to the window frame. There are already pre-drilled holes which we'll be using. It makes it much easier once the window is in the open position and you can put your drill against the greenhouse frame. The arm itself is preset. Now what we only have to do is to put the automatic cylinder. Next step, we'll need to install the automatic cylinder. using the pin that comes from the hardware bag included in the packaging. So from the hardware bag, the only hardware that we would need is that little pin. Now we'll have to align the holes on the cylinder and the tubing at the same time with the pin. However, the cylinder itself goes through the fixed nut. You first get it through it. Once you have secured it, you'll need to align it with the pin. Congratulations, you have completed the installation of the Sungrow automatic roof vent.